what is playing out in Xiamen as the 9th BRICS Summit is presently underway. We just saw a little while back the dignitaries and also the premiers of the 5 states of the BRICS coming together, just arriving at the center where the talks are to be held. We also saw a little while back Prime Minister Modi just making his arrival into this center in Xiamen where the talks are being held. Now, yesterday we saw the plenary discussion, that is the discussion which involves all 5 members of the BRICS, which took place, and also some restricted discussions as well, which took place yesterday. So this is what was seen. And also there are other dignitaries of the BRICS Plus as well, who are making their way to the center as discussions will unfold today. This of course, is the 9th BRICS Summit, and in many ways, this is a break away from the past, considering what India has always been demanding. It is almost a sort of a coup, a diplomatic coup that India has been able to pull off, considering the fact that this is a BRICS Summit that has taken place just a week after the standoff at Doklam ended. And what is going to be very interesting is what will be on agenda between the 2 leaders as President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi meet today for bilateral talks. And of course, my colleague Ramesh Ramachandran is getting us all the details from Xiamen as the summit takes place. Ramesh, you know, this of course, a lot of people have hailed it as you know, BRICS maturing into not just an economic grouping like when it started off in 2006. Not many people took the BRICS Summit very seriously, but now this is one of those groupings which in many ways is perhaps going to define trade and business in the 21st century.
Very true, Mohammed. Now, if we can just spend a moment or two on the history of BRICS. Now, BRICS was first conceptualized in 2001 by an economist, an American economist, and the first summit was held in the year 2009. And 2 years later, in 2011, the 4-member BRICS became a 5-member grouping with the inclusion or addition of South Africa. So today, BRICS, as it stands in 2017, is a 5-member grouping comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And we've seen in the last few years BRICS making an outreach, as it were, to other countries, to more countries who might be interested in the BRICS agenda. We saw Brazil, when it hosted the BRICS Summit a few years ago, inviting the Latin American countries to the summit. Russia invited the Central Asian countries to the summit it hosted a few years ago. And last year we saw India host the BRICS Summit in Goa, where it invited the members of the BIMSTEC countries, 7 countries who are members of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, comprising 5 South Asian economies and the 2 Southeast Asian economies of Myanmar and Thailand. And this year, at the 9th BRICS Summit here in Xiamen, China, the host China has invited 5 countries called the BRICS Plus countries, namely Mexico, Egypt, Guinea, Tajikistan and Thailand. So clearly the outreach effort is going on even as we speak. And the idea, just to give you a flavor, Mohammed, of the thinking in BRICS is not to remain a talk shop, but to be an actionable agenda. Just to quote an editorial written in the China Daily newspaper here this morning, it says, and I quote, "To make the grouping an action force rather than a talking shop." So that's that gives you a sense of where the BRICS might be headed in the near future as it enters the 2nd decade of its existence. And before that, before I hand it back to you, Mohammed, just to give you a flavor of the thinking, the mindset in BRICS today. The headline in the China Daily newspaper indicates that at least President Xi of China wants the BRICS members to speak in one voice, and he seems to suggest that it is time that all the 5 BRICS countries form a consensus on not only economic issues, but also on other issues like political and cultural issues that can bring the peoples of the BRICS members closer together.
Absolutely, indeed. And also, Ramesh, it's very interesting as to what will play out after the BRICS Summit. These are, of course, our shots of a little while back when Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually made his way to the center where the talks will take place today. But also Prime Minister Modi will leave for Myanmar immediately after the BRICS Summit. So what can we expect in terms of the agenda that Prime Minister Modi will have when he goes to Myanmar today?
Indeed, Mohammed, we've seen Prime Minister Modi adopt an innovative policy whereby every time he travels abroad in any direction, he wants to utilize that particular visit to the fullest, to the maximum. We've seen him go to Latin America, and he's, for instance, when he first went to Brazil for the BRICS Summit in 2014, he made it a point to visit other countries in the region. Similarly, when he went to the G20 Summit last year, he combined that with a visit to the East Asia Summit, which was held in Vietnam. So clearly, on this visit as well, he's going to Myanmar after he concludes the engagements here in Xiamen. And Myanmar is a very important country from India's perspective. Remember, not only do they share a common border, but also India's landlocked northeastern states. There's a lot at stake for India because of the proximity of the northeastern states with Myanmar and the insurgency problem that has been affecting the northeastern states for many, many decades now. Plus the fact that India has a new Act East policy, which is an improved version, if you will, of the Look East policy conceptualized by previous governments of the past. So under the Act East policy, the idea is to bring Southeast Asian economies, namely Myanmar and Thailand and other countries, closer together in terms of transport, in terms of cultural connectivity and infrastructure. So clearly, the Myanmar leg of the visit is very, very important from India's perspective. Also, the fact that security will be high on the agenda of Prime Minister's engagements in Naypyidaw, the capital of Myanmar. Also, one can expect India also to raise the issue of the Rohingya problem. Remember, the Rohingyas are known or described as a persecuted minority in Myanmar, stateless people really, and that has gained attention, worldwide attention in recent weeks, and that issue can also be expected to figure in Prime Minister Modi's talks in Myanmar.
Absolutely, Ramesh. And also very quickly, if I could just prod you a bit more in terms of the specifics today. Now, Prime Minister Modi will, of course, be having a bilateral talks with President Xi Jinping. Earlier it was said that perhaps the two leaders will only meet on the sidelines of this summit, but the two leaders will of course meet today for talks. What exactly could be on agenda, if we could just prod you a bit more on this?
Indeed, Mohammed, it is customary for the BRICS leaders to hold bilateral meetings on the margins of every BRICS summit. So yesterday we saw Prime Minister Modi meet with the Russian President, Mr. Vladimir Putin, and also the President of Brazil, and he'll also meet the other BRICS leaders, including President Xi, as I said, at about 12:30 p.m. Xiamen time, or about 10 a.m. India time. So clearly a lot at stake for both India and China from that particular meeting. But it's not clear yet as to what they might actually discuss. Now, the Indian diplomats are telling us that they don't want to second guess what Prime Minister Modi will indeed raise with President Xi. But the idea essentially, Mohammed, is to maintain relations on an even keel, especially in the wake of the resolution of the Doklam standoff. And India will be looking to devise a new mechanism, a new understanding to resolve, or the way forward to resolve the long-standing line of actual control problem that separates India from Tibet and China. Remember, it's almost a 4,000-kilometer long undefined border, undemarcated border, and that will be high on the agenda of Prime Minister Modi, given, especially as I said, in the wake of the standoff at Doklam, which was resolved more than 2 months after it first erupted in June. So clearly, a lot at stake for both India and China China especially will be looking forward to hear from India's side as to what both countries can do together at the regional and multilateral level.